Hello, everyone. Thanks for being with us and happy December. Jay is going to be leading us today for our disease prevention and reversal, our webinar series. Today's high blood pressure, our nation's silent assassin. Unfortunately, it affects so many of us and really does decrease the quality and quantity of people's lives. So Jay, I'll let you take it away.
Thank you, Dr. Cox. Welcome, everyone. Anyone that has heard my story knows that this one is near and dear to my heart. So, you know, what Dr. Cox said is absolutely true. This is a sneaky thing. And I'm going to go into some details, give you some numbers. But the bottom line I want you to take away today, if you take nothing else away, is that you have more power, you have more agency over your health than most of us have been led to believe. Yes, we have genetic factors. Yes, we have things that have gone wrong. Yes, we have, environmental factors, but there is so much more that we have power over. And I want you to feel that. I want you to realize that you have a lot of say when it comes to how your body feels, how it functions, and the quality of your life. I saw a news article today, just as a little aside, presumably the oldest woman ever just passed away, 124 years old. And she said her secret was vegetables. So let's get into it. So anybody that has seen the presentation for me has likely seen these next two slides. I'm not going to go into my full story, but I am going to call out a couple of things here. I want you to look at this woman's underlying skin tone, gray, and the hot cheeks on top of that. Look at her eyes. This woman is exhausted. Look at that smile. I mean, she is working it for all she is worth. But now I want you to look at this woman. Look at the brightness of that smile. Look at that skin. Look at those eyes. I'm not saying, yeah, I'm so fantastic now. I am saying that when people say that, the effort that is required to get healthy is going to make you miserable, I give you these photos as evidence to the contrary. I am happier. I am a lot lighter. I am so much more at peace. I'm clearer. I'm more energetic. I'm all of the things that I would hope for than I was back then. And, some of these pictures are from a long time ago. And I have to say, I look older in some of these photos than I do in the newer ones because I was exhausted. I was battling on a daily basis just to exist. So let me give you the quick version of my story. So I'm not going to go into the rest of this. There are many benefits to changing the way you eat. But the big one that we're talking about today is total reversal of severe hypertension. I'm going to tell you exactly what severe hypertension is in a moment. Lost a lot of weight, that's fantastic. It wasn't my focus, but that's what happened. Tummy troubles gone, serious tummy troubles from the time I was a baby. So, I never thought that was something I could fix. I thought it was something inherently wrong with me within 5 weeks of changing what I eat. Gone. Mind blown, right? But the big thing is I wanted to continue to be here. And with stroke level blood pressure at the age of 35, I wasn't going to have a full lifespan. So what I did was I went directly to the science instead of listening to what everyone knows about nutrition, right? There's always something new coming out, South Beach, low carb, coconut oil, superfoods, all this kind of stuff. The actual science is quite clear. There are always outliers in the science, but the consensus in the science is quite clear. And it is simple. I'm not saying it's easy, not if you're going, according to the standard American diet, that very sad diet. I'm not saying it's easy, but I am saying it's very simple. And so let me get into some more of the details and give you some specific tips that you can take away and use starting today. So this I'm going to show you again at the end. This is just a little bit of a teaser. I want to show you, this is just a little graph that I got from the CDC. Basically, it says non-Hispanic Black persons more than twice as likely to die of heart disease than other populations. So I want you to remember that fact. More than twice as likely to die of heart disease. Okay, I want you to remember it. So I'm going to come back. What is hypertension? So let's get into the basics. I will go through this very, very quickly because likely if you're here, you know what hypertension is. It's high blood pressure. Blood pressure is the force of the blood in your arteries. You get a top number and a bottom number, right? The top number is your heart contracting. The diastolic, or the bottom number, is it when it's releasing or when it's relaxed so that blood can refill. So top number, bottom number. What do these numbers mean? Okay, so this is a beautiful graphic that the American Heart Association has. One thing I want to call out, you can look at all the numbers, but one thing I want to call out for sure is this green bar at the top. So the green bar says, this is important, less than 120 for the top number, and both, and less than 80 for the bottom number. That is good to go. 110 or over 70 is pretty much, ideal as far as we know right now in the science. Now I want you to look at the very bottom, this bright red one at the bottom. Hypertensive crisis, consult your doctor immediately. I have been there and it was not fun. I don't want that for anyone. But if you are there, or if you have been, you can certainly relate to how that made me feel. And you can relate to the feeling of hopelessness. Because most of the time we feel like we're doing okay. I certainly did. I thought I was doing everything right, actually. I loved my veggies. I was eating my grains whole. I was eating all my meat white. I wasn't eating fast food for a couple of years. I hadn't drunk soda in a year and a half. All of this stuff, I thought I was doing right. And here's where I ended up, in hypertensive crisis, stroke level blood pressure at the age of 35. So I just want to point out one quick little detail. The risk of death from heart disease and stroke doubles with every 20 extra points on top, an extra 10 points on the bottom. So 20 on top, 10 on bottom, doubles your risk of heart attack and stroke. So these numbers are important. What's our number one killer in this country? Heart disease. We know this, right? We already know this. There is only one diet that has been shown to reverse heart disease, and that is plant-based eating. Now people get a little frustrated with that. So I can't be a vegan or a vegetarian or whatever, right? I get it. You don't have to be. But what you do need to do is you need to nourish your body really, really well and keep those things that are harming it to a minimum. So nourish it really, really well. Keep those things that are harming it to a minimum. I'm not saying you have to be perfect. Perfect is not a real thing. It doesn't exist. So this is one of the ones I want to point out because it might be of interest. Now, I am not diminishing the seriousness of COVID. COVID is very serious, and my heart aches for everyone that has suffered and lost because of it. But I do want to point out something that kind of baffles me, because 2020 death statistics here, vital statistics, the numbers. COVID is third, okay, still very, very serious. Heart disease is killing twice as many of us. Twice as many of us died of heart disease than COVID in 2020. So yes, COVID is serious. Yes, we should take it seriously. But why aren't we taking heart disease more seriously? Why aren't we implementing preventative measures? Why are we not protecting ourselves? Because we absolutely have many avenues for protecting ourselves against it. Why is this not more in the, national conversation? I mean, we talk about it all the time. We talk about heart attacks and all of that, but the prevention is what we need to speak more about. And that's more about what I want to talk to you about today. Okay, so what makes you more likely to develop hypertension? Smoking, secondhand smoke, too much alcohol, diabetes and heart disease are best friends. Unfortunately, they go very much hand in hand. One tends to lead to the other and vice versa. When I'm talking about type 2 diabetes, mostly here. Overweight, more than 70% of us are overweight. So, most of us, a vast majority of us are at risk. And a lot of us are not getting enough movement in the day. And I'm not just talking about going to the gym for an hour every day, lifting heavy things and putting them back down again. I am talking about movement throughout the course of your day. that I talk about as I'm sitting at my desk right now, right? So we really want to make sure that we are incorporating movement all the way through our day. Number one, though, our number one risk factor for lifestyle diseases, things that we are suffering with and dying too early from: food, our nutrition, and things that aren't really food that we're consuming, right? So unhealthy diet, too high in the sodium, too low in the potassium, high in unhealthy fats, low in whole foods, and mostly low in fiber. I mean, we are getting a fraction on average of what we should be getting. So which foods contain fiber? Everything that we can eat that grows from the ground. Nothing else contains fiber. And the things that did grow from the ground but have been heavily processed, most of that fiber, if not all, has been removed. So you want to eat it as close to the way it grew as possible. Does that mean you can only eat vegetables for the rest of your life? Absolutely not. So what are the things that we can eat that grow from the ground? Fruit, vegetables, grains, beans, legumes, lentils, peas, all that kind of stuff, nuts and seeds. Everything that grows from the ground that we can eat contains fiber. Eat it as close to the way it grew as you can. So what are you risking if you have hypertension or high blood pressure? You're obviously risking heart attack, right? Heart attack, stroke. Somebody very close to me, actually several somebodies in my life that I was close to had strokes. And I can tell you, this is not something I ever want for anyone, and certainly nobody that I care about, certainly nobody that I know, certainly nobody that's close to me. So this was the big driver for me to say, okay, enough is enough. We need to figure this out. Vision loss, kidney damage and failure. That's a big one that a lot of people don't know about. Sexual dysfunction. So there's a lot of erectile dysfunction, and women have some sexual dysfunction as well due to problems with blood flow. Damage to the cardiovascular organs and blood vessels. So blood vessels, think of them like a big tree in our body. There's big ones in the middle, and then they go down to very, very, very itty bitty ones at the very ends and into our organs. They're everywhere. So we really need to protect them. What do they do for us? They give our cells the nourishment they need in order to function. They oxygenate and provide nourishment as well as other things. So we need to make sure that we're protecting this core system. If our heart stops, we stop. Okay, so what are the signs and symptoms of hypertension? Usually there are none. This is the scary bit. Now, what's awesome about this is that it is very easy to check. I have blood pressure, a little blood pressure cuff of my own here at my home. You can go to the drugstore, check it there. You can go to your doctor's office and check it there. It is relatively easy to get checked. Blood pressure cuffs, highly recommend the arm kind and not the wrist kind. The arm kind, they're relatively inexpensive. If you have a little bit of extra cash to spend on it, that is something that is wonderful because you can monitor it, you can pay attention. When we go to the doctor's office, we're not exactly perfectly calm, most of us. So it's a good idea to be checking this at other times as well, if you can. So sometimes people get headaches. You cannot tell by just looking. You can't tell that someone has hypertension just by looking at them. And just because they look slim does not mean they don't. Now, we've heard stories in the media of, famous people that are slim, that run all the time, that are always exercising, that have had heart attacks. And so just because you're at appropriate weight for your body does not mean you're immune. We need to make sure that we are nourishing our body really well and doing all the other things that keep us healthy. Speaking of all the other things, so if you've been to any of our presentations, you have seen this circle. So we bring this up again and again and again because these are really the 6 pillars of the things that you can manage, right? And I know some of these things are tricky, but the more that you can do to, take care of these 6 aspects, the less likely you are to suffer with the kinds of things that are killing most of us, the things that we are suffering with the most. And so what are the 6 pillars? Healthful eating, and what the lifestyle medicine says is whole food, plant-based. Physical activity, we got to move our body every day, get in balance and flexibility, strength training, and cardiovascular exercise. Stress, got to manage that stress. A little bit of stress is good. Need a little bit of stress to keep us going, but that chronic stress, that is not good for us. So we need to figure out how to get away from it or manage it really, really well, probably both. Avoiding risky substances, stay away from those hard drugs, stay away from alcohol, smoking, all of those things that we know are harmful to us. And there are some foods that fall into that category as well. Sleep. So this is one of the things that, if you go to your doctor and, you're diagnosed newly with something, especially any of the lifestyle stuff, but anything really, and your doctor doesn't ask you about these other things, then they're missing a big piece of that puzzle. How is your sleep? That seriously impacts your blood pressure, as well as many other things. So make sure you're getting an average of 7 to 9 hours good quality sleep. Form and maintain healthy relationships. Now, this one sometimes people have a little bit of trouble, like, well, what does that matter? But it really, really does, not just for emotional and mental well-being. But if you think about it, there's science that shows us that people that have pets have lower blood pressure. That connection, with animals or with human animals, is really, really beneficial to our health, and maintaining those good connections, having that good support system, having the people that you are not only able to reach out to, but are able to reach out to you, that reciprocal relationship, that is really, really good for us. And, over the past year and a half, as we've been, kind of locked down and isolated, it's become even more important. So anybody that has become more isolated, maybe some of their friends have passed away, maybe they've been isolated due to COVID, maybe they have, just become limited in their physical ability, make sure you reach out, especially this time of year. This is a tough time of year for people that are alone. So reach out, that will do you good and them good too. So patterns. Patterns are what I like to focus on when it comes to healthy behaviors, because humans are really amazing. We live in all sorts of different climates, live on different kinds of foods. I mean, all over the world, we're doing, amazing things. We're surviving in these really intense situations. So let's look all over the world and see what those people are doing. The 5 original blue zones, what are they doing to live really long, vital, vibrant lives? What are they doing? They have some pillars too, and they match very closely to that lifestyle medicine bubble that we just looked at. So food, how can we eat better? Now, I discourage you from wiping everything you eat out and starting fresh with something that's completely foreign to you. What I highly recommend is upgrading your food. So sure, eliminate some things are really bad if you're up for that, but increase the good things. So add in some of these fresh foods, some of these whole plant foods, increase those. So if you love pasta, find a whole grain version, find a bean version. If you love rice, if you love whole grains, do whole grains, do brown rice instead of the white rice. Find ways to incorporate these whole foods into your life that will increase your fiber. Remember, the fiber is a big one, and it will increase your micronutrients. So your body will be nourished really, really well. So everything functions better. So a couple of healthy cooking tips. Focus on those whole foods, whole grains, whole fruits, whole vegetables, and the nuts and seeds. Stay away from those processed foods wherever possible. Saute in water or veggie stock instead of oil. Watch that sodium. Use vinegars, herbs, and spices instead of salt. Boil, steam, roast, or eat those foods raw that can be eaten raw, and bake instead of fried. Try that parchment paper. Parchment paper is the best invention ever if you want to brown your food without using oil. And most important, take every opportunity to add more vegetables, especially those grains, but also those glorious jewel-toned vegetables. Eat them all, and try to allow those to crowd out some of these less helpful things. That strategy works really well for most people. Don't forget those herbs and spices. They have powerful antioxidants, anti-inflammatories, really, really good stuff. And they make our food delicious. Okay, remember the slide that I showed you in the beginning? this is what I want to talk about. So genetics. So heart disease runs in my family. Okay. Here's the thing. When it comes to so many of our lifestyle diseases, now what do I mean when I say lifestyle diseases? I mean, what you choose in your life impacts whether you get it or not, impacts, the severity of it, all of those lifestyle diseases, heart disease and high blood pressure, those being among those. Heart problems can be congenital, which means you can be born with them. That's not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about the ones that develop as a result of our choices. Now, that's both disheartening and heartening at the same time, because disheartening, like, oh, I chose this, yikes. But also heartening because I can choose differently. So you have the power. So what I'm talking about here with this little slide is that the science shows us that non-Hispanic Black persons are more than twice as likely as certain populations to die of heart disease. Is that because they're Black? No, it's not, because I'm going to show you what the traditional diets of, and this is all over the world, the very, very core traditional diets, like from a long time ago, typically, or nations that have not westernized their food, they still are not suffering as much with what we are suffering with in this country. What does that tell you? Is it genetics? No. Genetics do run in families, but so do recipes, so do habits, right? So we have more agency over our health than we've been led to believe. This is not meant to make you feel guilty. This is meant to empower you. Oh, you're saying I have more power over this than I originally thought? That is a good thing. That is a very, very good thing. So remember this, twice as likely to die. Then there's this Kenya study. Now, this was done a while back. 1,800 patients over 2 years in this Kenya study. How many of them do you think had hypertension? 0. None of them. How many of them had heart disease? 0. There goes that genetics theory, right? Now, this is one population, but have a look at these other populations, these other places in the world that have these patterns of behavior, these patterns of eating that are similar. Heavily plant-based, lots of movement, good connection. The blue zones, the Adventist studies, the China study, the different populations all over China, the Kenya study, all of these, what do they have in common? They have a pattern of behavior, a pattern of nourishing their bodies that leads to longer lives, leads to less lifestyle diseases. What are the health damaging patterns? The way that we eat in America in general. Obviously not everyone, because everyone here is paying attention, right? But the standard American diet, which we call the SAD, the SAD, those westernized diets, those are the ones that are taking us down. We need to resist that. Just because everybody's doing it doesn't mean we should be doing it too. Listen to what your mother said. Patterns of health in immigrants over generations. This is another cool kind of pattern that we can watch. So when people first come to this country from less westernized areas, they do not have the same things that we have. They're not getting sick with the same things we are. A generation or two later, they've caught up. This is the problem. The problem is the way that we behave, what we choose on a day-to-day basis. Mostly nutrition, but all these other things as well. So how do I get to this place where I can change the way that I behave? It's not easy. And, I did say in the beginning that it's simple. It is. It's very simple, but I know that it's not easy. I went through it myself, and I know many people that have done it. Once you get the ball rolling, it gets a lot easier. But a few key points that I want to make, just so that I don't say this is what you have to do and leave you hanging, is bad habits need to be replaced with good ones. You can't just say, I'm going to quit doing something and leave it at that. That almost never works. You need to replace it with a better habit. So let me give you a specific example. Maybe you're a late night snacker. So what do? You just say, oh, I won't eat and in the evening. If you can do that, more power to you. But for most people, that just doesn't work. So what do? Let's say you eat ice cream at night. So upgrade it. Upgrade it to nice cream. So if you've never tried nice cream, N-I-C-E cream, nice cream, look it up. There are plenty of delicious recipes. It's amazing. I was an ice cream fiend, pre-plant-based, so I can tell you it's awesome. So just upgrade it. Replace it with something better. Maybe you replace your activities. Maybe typically you watch TV at night. Do something else so that you're not tempted to eat. Replace these unhealthy behaviors and habits with better ones. Dig deep for your whys. What do I mean by that? If you don't know why you're doing something, if you don't know the deep, powerful, meaningful, emotionally evocative reasons why you are doing something, likely you're not going to stick with it. So dig deep for your whys. They will change over time, but keep them front and center. I mean, literally on a piece of paper if you need to. Keep them in your mind all the time. I set reminders on my phone. It's just a little quick, one of them is get out of your own way. That's one of my daily reminders. Get out of your own way. Find your whys. One of my deep whys was my husband. So you saw some pictures of him early on in the presentation. He was on 2 medications by the time that I got my diagnosis. And his father had a massive stroke. I mean, he survived, but he was in pain. He needed help with everything. It was heartbreaking to watch, and I adored him so much. And he really, really suffered. And so I didn't want that. I didn't want that for him. Certainly didn't want that for my husband, and I didn't want it for me. Those are deep, powerful, emotionally evocative whys. Find those whys for yourself. Fitting into a smaller dress size or a smaller pair of pants is fine, but that's not going to keep you going on those days when you're just like, I don't feel like it. And we're human, so we're all going to have days like that. Track your progress. Now, not necessarily scale. As a matter of fact, I highly discourage getting on the scale. Some people, it really helps them to stay on track. Most of us, it just drives us nuts. It's good to know where you're at. Weight is a biomarker of health, just like your blood pressure, just like your cholesterol, just like all the other things. So keep track of where you are. So that gave you some clues. Track your blood results. Your doctor's, typically sending you to Quest Diagnostics or wherever to get blood work done. Keep track of that. Make changes. Keep track of whether that's helping. Create automaticity. What do I mean by that? So we can go through our days completely shut off in our brain, on our upper brain, our frontal lobe. We can just go through our days very mindlessly, very, one foot in front of the other. I mean, you can drive to work and not even really remember how you got there, right? You can go to the grocery store and come up with a cart full of groceries and go, oh, there, groceries are there. How did that happen? You can do these things automatically. So what we want to do is create automaticity in the good habits, in the right decisions. And how do we do that? Practice. So one of the things that I like to talk about is motivation and willpower. Those are limited resources. You cannot rely on them. And the longer we go through the day, the lower those are in their, the tank is lower in those. So you want to plan ahead for when you're feeling strong, and then you want to practice. So what do you practice? You practice good habits. What does that create in you? Discipline. So discipline, some people think of it as a bad word, but it is something that is empowering if you choose it to be. So how do you get more discipline? By practicing discipline. So create those really good habits, changing those bad habits to good habits, swap the bad ones for better ones, and then practice. And then eventually it'll just become what you do. And then once you get there, which doesn't really take that long, really, you can relax and you can continue to evolve and continue to grow and continue to improve, but with a nice foundation to go from. So in the beginning, it can be a little challenging, little discomfort, but it's absolutely 100% worth it. think about that smile in the first set of pictures and the smile in the second set. Look at this smile right here. I can tell you that I am so much more at peace with my body. I'm working with my body instead of feeling like I'm constantly working against it. I am loving food. I love food. And I'm loving it in a way that it loves me back too. I love ooey gooey decadence. You can still have that without doing overt harm to our bodies. So remember, plan ahead, be realistic, and practice, practice, practice. Okay, so I finished my actual presentation a little bit early because I wanted to talk about a couple of other things and then we'll get to questions. So I want you to know that we have officially announced our Disease Prevention and Reversal Virtual Summit for 2022. That's January 15th from 9 a.m. to noon. So my plant chat folks, this is what we're going to be doing on that Saturday instead of plant chat. Disease Prevention and Reversal Virtual Summit. So we will have several speakers, all lifestyle medicine focused, a variety of doctors and physician's assistant and myself. Some of the speakers, if you went last year, will be familiar, but we also have some new faces too, and a whole bunch of new topics. So this is absolutely free. You can take a little picture on your screen of the QR code, or you can go to the website prevdoc.com/sign up to get signed up for that.
As far as tips and tricks, I want to ask you, what have you heard of things, or what would you say as far as things that are really good and successful ways to really approach plant-based?
Okay, and that's a really good question. So I think the most important thing, and I deal with individuals as well as groups on a daily basis. The most important thing is that you do it your way. There are a lot of cookie cutter programs out there and they got some great information, but if you do, go for one of these programs that is the same for everyone, make sure to customize it to your life. So, people have 8 children, 3 jobs, or they live alone, or, we have vastly different lifestyles. Some people love to cook. Some people don't know how to boil water, everything in between. Some people have been living a certain way for so long that they have, really deeply ingrained habits and behaviors, and they have, a different path than others. So it's really important that you customize it for yourself. What the science shows us is that for most people, gradual changes, so chunks, little chunks, medium-sized chunks, bigger chunks, however much you can handle without feeling overwhelmed, that is the best strategy. Now, there are some of us who either by necessity or because of our personalities have done the both feet in method. But even those folks, this girl right here, even those folks have, over time continue to evolve. So it's still basically a stepwise approach. If you have to go in with both feet, because for me, I had a medical crisis, I was not going to continue to be here if I didn't do something pretty soon. That kind of situation really helps if you have some help. So step by step and support. The science shows us that the more support that we have for changing our healthier behaviors, the more likely we are to succeed. So having those people in our lives that are supporting us. Now, I run into this on a regular basis. People are like, I'm the only one in my house doing this. And so, I love one of the things that you said a week or so ago, and that was, why are you cooking 2 different meals? Just cook the good stuff. I just love that, you can do that. But also make sure to seek out help elsewhere, because we're out there. We have a group that meets every Saturday at 11 a.m. Pacific time. And all we do there is support each other. We give each other ideas. We celebrate each other's, successes. We talk about, heartbreak, and we give each other strategies on how to handle all this stuff. And just being there, just having this group is all by itself what's keeping some of us going. Then you have Walk with the Doc for Saturday of the month. Again, this group of people, like-minded people that you can seek support from. And, Dr. Cox has very often other healthcare professionals that come that you can seek, that kind of support, that kind of information and encouragement from as well.
Jay, we have a question here about the best practice to monitor blood pressure at home. Do you want to take that, or you want me to take that?
So I will do a little bit, and then feel free to add anything you think of. So one of the things that's important is taking your blood pressure properly. So a lot of people don't really know how to do it properly. So a couple of things. Make sure that you have rested, like you're sitting comfortably for at least 5 or 10 minutes. Make sure that you're calm. Don't do this right after exercise. Don't do it right after you've had an argument with someone, that sort of thing. Make sure you're nice and calm. When you're fixing the blood pressure cuff, make sure it's in the center of your arm. Your arm should be at the level of your heart. And you want your feet flat on the floor. Empty your bladder. Make sure you're very, very comfortable. And take the blood pressure. You want to be calm, and you want to be in the right position. If you raise your arm up, your blood pressure will go down, but that doesn't necessarily mean that your blood pressure is good then, right? So you want to be in the right position, and you want to be comfortable, and you want to be taking it. Now, there are some wrist ones, and they are okay, but as I said earlier, these ones are more accurate, these ones up here. You don't have to get an expensive one, but do get one that fits properly. If you have very, very big arms, there are ones that have larger sort of extended wraps, and you want to be able to do this yourself. If you need help every time, that can be an impediment. The other thing is you want to time it appropriately. So I highly recommend doing it different times during the day. First thing in the morning, right before you go to bed, are great times. Again, not right after you exercise, because our blood pressure does go up when we exercise, typically, not always. So take that into account. Do it on a regular basis, though. Don't just do it once and think, oh, well, it's fine. Do it a few times. And like I said, over different parts of the day. What do you think? Anything else?
That's the big thing I recommend to people, is to do it different parts of the day, just like you mentioned, and to make sure you're taking it properly. You can always take your blood pressure cuff into your doctor's office and have it measured to make sure it's accurate too, because that's a big thing. A lot of the home blood pressure cuffs read a little high, like 10 points high. Definitely different parts of the day is a big thing. And then what was the last thing? Oh, don't worry too much about it. Don't worry too much about it, because a lot of times if someone's going plant-based, we really need to watch the blood pressure, because it drops very quickly. So does the cholesterol, but and the sugar level too. But the blood pressure one, that can make people like dizzy and really feel crummy. So if someone's going to jump like 2 feet in, like Jay did, if they're on medications, quite often we half the medications right off the bat. So, or if it's seeming like a weekend where it's clear that they're making big changes, we definitely need to half it. Otherwise, just keep a really close eye out. And if there's any dizziness or lightheadedness, especially when you're going from like a sitting or laying down position to standing up, if you're getting lightheaded or dizzy at that time, then that's a really good indicator that the blood pressure is too low and that we're over medicating.
That is a great point, and definitely one that's important, because one thing that I didn't mention is people can see improvements in their biomarkers within a couple of weeks, depending on how quickly they transition. So this can happen, as Dr. Cox said, very quickly. And so you're going to want to stay in touch with your doc. Say, especially if you're going from a very SAD diet, very standard American diet, and you're transitioning quickly, you're going to want to stay in touch with your doctor on any medication, or if you have anything underlying that's going on, including the blood sugar, like you mentioned. And we don't want you to be over medicated. So this is a good thing. We want to make sure that you're doing really well, but do not, and I will say this on behalf of all doctors, do not adjust your medications yourself. Please talk to your doctor before, because some medications need to be stepped down, and et cetera, et cetera. They might be working with other medications that you're on. So it's really important to talk to your doc first.
Yes, and actually, as far as talking to your doctor goes, because it's hard to do that now, and we all know that. I'm sure you all have had that experience with your physicians as well, if you've tried to seek healthcare in the last 2 years. So there is always a doctor on call for every primary care doctor's office. So let's say you have changed your diet and you're feeling lightheaded or dizzy and you can't get an appointment for some time, because unfortunately that's common right now. So in all doctors' offices, there's always a doctor on call. You can always reach out. Just call the office number for your primary care doctor. It's going to roll over and the doctor that's on call will reach out to you. So don't feel like you're stuck out there, like having to figure out what to do with your medications on your own. There is someone available.
That's a great tip, yes, because this past couple of years has been really wild in terms of healthcare and trying to manage all that. I hope you all are being super gentle and patient with your healthcare providers in this season where things are a little bit crazier than usual, and it was pretty well stretched before all of this was going on. I am certainly not unique. That's the best part. The best part is this is not, you know, when you go to those diet commercials and stuff where they say results not typical, the opposite is true here. Results are typical. It doesn't mean that everyone's going to get perfectly healthy after they eat some veggies. No, what it does mean though is we are really discovering, you know, more and more all the time how much power we have over our own health. I mean, look at the gut microbiota. That's something that we're going to be covering at the summit. This is some powerful, powerful stuff. This is impacting all areas of our health. This is really amazing. And the health of your gut is heavily impacted by what you do. So a few more tips: eat more fiber, eat more fiber, eat more fiber. So what do I mean by that? All of the plants contain fiber. Eat those greens. Those greens are extremely high nutrient density, low calorie density. They are doing a lot of healing for your gut. And that, as I was just mentioning, is the center of where a lot of dis-ease comes from. So make sure that you are able to digest your food really well, that your body has the capacity to change what you eat into good things that your body needs. And so make sure to get in that fiber. You know, the recommendations are around an average of about 25, 28, something like that, depending on your gender. And what the lifestyle medicine advocates are saying is double that. And what most Americans are getting is less than half that. So we are seriously fiber deprived. And so that's a big one. Of course, eat real food. Stay away from that processed food. Processed food is very, very high in sodium, among many other things that impact our blood sugar. Blood sugar, but also blood pressure as well. So make sure that you are eating those healthy foods, staying away from those harmful fats. Eat the good fats. Stay away from the harmful ones. We know what the harmful ones are, right? Trans fats, very bad. Saturated fat, keep low, 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 low. Monounsaturated fats, the MUFAs and the PUFAs, monounsaturated fats, polyunsaturated fats, those are good ones. Those are healthy ones. Increase your non-starchy vegetable intake at every single meal, and you will improve in likely just about every area of your health. Use those foods to nourish your body really well. And then don't forget, get good night's sleep, keep that stress low, maintain those good connections, stay away from the risky stuff, and move your body every day. Move it, not just go into the gym, but get in some movement. Do a dance minute every hour or something. Get in that movement all day long. Okay, I'm going to share my screen one more time because I want to share some resources. Unless, Dr. Cox, you have anything else you wanted to share?
I don't. I think we'll go over resources and maybe we'll give people back some time of their day so we all can get out and get a little movement in.
Yeah. I love it. Okay, so as I said, January 15th in the morning, keep this time open. We want to see you there. And these are the things that we do on a regular basis. Now, this stuff is a total labor of love for Dr. Cox and I. All of these things that we do for free because it is that important. It is too important to get this information out there, even for people that cannot afford, health insurance, that cannot afford meeting with a nutritionist one-on-one. This information is too important. I hope that you are getting your healthcare where you need it, but don't forget about these free resources as well. So we've got prevdoc.com, which is our disease prevention and reversal site. That's Dr. Cox and I created that, and that's where the summit comes out of in all of these monthly webinars. First Wednesday of the month at noon. Walk with the Doc, as I mentioned, Dr. Cox has her Walk with the Doc the first Saturday of the month under the Ventura Pier at 9 a.m. Plant Chat, that's with me, that happens online every Saturday at 11 a.m. PT. And if you want more information about all of these or any of these, reach out to either of us. So I want to thank you again so much for being here, and I want you to have a fantastic rest of your day.